What's up everyone, Tom from the Airsoft headquarters here, and welcome back. Today is one of the first days where it is warm, where I have to wear a t-shirt outside and it's bright, and so it's just a good day. So I figured it'd be a good change of scenery in order to get out and kind of have some warmth. It's the change in the season, and unfortunately there's going to be a lot of other people out enjoying the warm weather as well, so we're going to try to make it to where there's not as many cuts as people drive by. But today we're going to talk about the Elite Force Glock 34. Now, Glock 34 is going to be another variation of the Glock series. Now, this one specifically is going to be CO2 powered. The 34 designates the longer slide variation of the Glock series. The Gen 4 designates the style of grip or frame that is utilized on the Glock 34 or Glock 17 or Glock 19 or whatever Glock series. Usually refers to the stippling or texturing of the grip. Now, the Glock 34 from Elite Force is going to be a full blowback design, which means the slide is going to reciprocate and move back like a full blowback, and is going to utilize a CO2 drop-free style of magazine. Now, that is going to allow a little bit of recoil, but due to the longer length of slide as well, having CO2 power as far as the propellant is going to allow it to be more efficient. You could utilize green gas style of magazines, but that is going to result in overall lower velocity and overall less shot per green gas fill in order to operate the entire length of the slide. What is not shown a lot of cases or a lot of times online versus on websites is that distinct cutout of the slide here. And that's to allow for the Elite Force Glock 34 to slide and move freely. So they try to make it as efficient as possible. However, there is still going to be some issues about this. But before we get into all of those more niche details, we're going to talk about the overall length on it. The slide length, which is right behind that orange tip all the way to the very back here, is going to be 8 inches in total length. The entire pistol platform from the very front of the orange tip all the way to the back plate here is going to be roughly 9 1/4 total inches. For people that have maybe a little bit larger of a grip, the full-size style of grip is going to be a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more efficient for people to utilize, get a good grip, and have full control there. The CO2 magazines are going to be the VFC style of magazine specifically, which is going to be featuring that +2 base plate on the very bottom here. People will get confused and think that the KWC magazines are going to be compatible with the VFC pistols. That is not the case. KWC magazines won't work in VFC pistols, and VFC magazines will not work in the KWC pistols. So if you are looking for spare magazines, you have to be sure to get the VFC CO2 full blowback, which is going to be, this guy right here. Currently on the market, that is going to be a little bit harder to find. So just be aware that you are purchasing those. Out of the box, it is going to be shooting around 360 feet per second with a 0.20 gram BB. There are certain websites that have not done a thorough velocity inspection on the Glock 34, so I do need to correct some of those sites and tell you guys that it is shooting 360 feet per second. Now again, with that green gas magazine, it is going to be shooting a lower velocity. Here, when it is warmer out, we are going to be retesting it, but previously we were getting about 300 to 280 feet per second with the green gas magazines. Now, we were only able to get about a mag, 3/4 of a mag of the green gas in order to shoot through this Glock 34. And again, that has to do with the green gas output pressure being a lower pressure compared to CO2. Green gas directly from the canister is going to be 115 psi versus the 12 gram CO2 canisters are going to have 900 psi. So CO2 has significantly more pressure to deal with colder climates, as well as being able to operate heavier or longer base of slides, also giving you a little bit more recoil base. The magazines on the CO2 pistols, especially when it comes to more mainstream style of brands, are going to have an internal regulatory system on those magazines specifically to take that 900 psi down to a more manageable, safer velocity that the pistol itself can handle. So directly utilizing the CO2 magazines, we were getting about 2 magazines with 0.20 shooting 360 feet per second. We were able to get 2.5 total mags, but the the third magazine, by the time we fill those up, it was skipping shots and only chronoing about 280, low 200s FPS. And that just has to do with expelling more gas into the operating of the slide in order to, get all of that weight. From a regular person, that doesn't feel like a lot of weight. But in order to kind of balance that higher pressure, in order to output a safe enough pressure, in order to only have it fire 360 feet per second reliably, that is a very careful balance that those internals have to manage. So I personally do like that the Elite Force, the VFC brand, and a couple of other brands are doing very good work as far as those internal constructions with the magazines and with the blowback unit housing in order to deal with a higher pressure and making a safe velocity. I rambled on about that. Let's go over it. So starting at the tip, we do have the federally mandated plastic orange tip, the metal slide with that cutout, with the licensed Glock 34 Gen 4, Austria 9x19. And on the other side, there is that individual serial number, and then a small little Glock on there. The barrel is going to be metal. It does feel aluminum. And again, to go back to that orange tip, people will ask me if it is removable. It is removable. However, that orange tip with the Elite Force Glocks does work as a stabilizer for that inner barrel. So if you remove that orange tip, it can compromise the placement of that inner barrel. And if you remove it, you get more inaccurate shots. So it is significantly more beneficial to keep that orange tip on there. So it just helps stabilize that inner barrel. Your standard front and rear iron sights, standard Glock iron sights. The frame is going to be a polymer construction, the nicer Glock style of polymer construction. On the frame, it is going to have a enhanced slide release, which I personally like on my real Glocks. So they do feature that on there. With all my real Glocks, I do put the enhanced slide release on there just to make it easier to get that thumb up there on those reloads and make sure that you do hit it. It doesn't matter as much on Airsoft because there's not a whole lot of pressure there to push downwards in order to release that slide. On the real ones, there's significantly more pressure, so I'm a little bit of a wimp and really like having those enhanced slide releases. The magazine release here, which, standard polymer magazine release, the polymer trigger with the trigger safety on there. Inside of the box, there is going to be an additional back strap, which I believe is going to be a slightly thinner back strap that could be removed on here and then have that thinner one put in place for anyone that prefers that style of grip. Again, drop-free style of magazine. The backplate here is going to be spec'd for having any type of flared magazine, well, or whatever Glock accessory you like to have installed here. For anyone that does not know, the Glock 34 is a little bit more traditional as far as utilizing it as a race style pistol. So 3-gun or IPSA, whatever acronym for competition for real firearms, for utilizing the 34 as a race pistol. The Glock 34 is also coming with a hard case of carry case. Most everything else is going to be coming in a cardboard box. So very cool that they are utilizing real Glock carry cases. If you purchase a real Glock, it is going to be coming in one of these. So open it up, and internally it looks identical to that of the real Glock carry case as well. Comes with a spare body pin as well as that extra grip, and the manual in there as well. So, and to my knowledge, this feels just like the real Glock carry cases as well, utilizing similar platforms or polymers. So one of the things that I personally always liked about people doing review videos is always looking at the accuracy of the pistol platforms or rifle platforms or whatever have you, right? I'd like to have some of that knowledge as far as what can be expected performance-wise before I make that final purchase. So I tried my best to do that for you guys. So here is our target, and you'll notice, like we normally do, is we do 5 shots at 25 feet, 5 shots at 50 feet, and then we knock it out to 100 feet and do another 5 shots there. So the very top 2 shots are going to be, or shot groupings are going to be the 25 foot, the 50 foot for the Glock 34 platform. Because once we took it out to 100 feet, it was overhopping and didn't retain a whole lot of accuracy, even shooting at it more than 5 times. So I did a sampling of the 25, kept that there, the original shooting, kept the original 50 as well, but then I cracked out my Glock 19, the green gas one, brought the target back up to the 25 foot, and aiming for the belly, put another 5 into the center mass. Again, not adjusting my hop up, so it should all be preset from when I last utilized my 19. And the grouping at 25 feet for the 19 was a tighter grouping than the 34 at 25 feet. So then I knocked the target back out to 50 feet and then shot another 5-shot grouping with a 19. And the grouping size was larger than the 34 at 50 feet. And then unfortunately at 100 feet, I knew it wasn't gonna be able to hit the target, but I still knocked it out there and I obviously didn't hit anything. So we can see that up close, it doesn't really particularly matter. And I'll fully admit that it could 100% be on the side of the shooter. And it could also be, you know, having a one shooting example is not going to have a definite answer over time or what the consistency is going to be. So this is just, you know, right out of the box, what can be expected versus the 19 I've utilized for 2 years now. So it's a little bit more worn in, it's found its consistency. So we can see that the 19 is more consistent after being utilized compared to the 34 that's brand new at 25 feet. However, out at 50 feet, we can see that the 50-foot grouping of the 34 is going to be a better size of grouping due to having that longer barrel to help stabilize that BB as it goes through the inner barrel compared to the 19 at 50 feet, a larger grouping size. Now, as far as weight utilized, I was utilizing 2 5s for the weight. So it's kind of like, it's not crazy light 2.0s, just a standard weight of 2 5s, and not super heavy 2 8s for a pistol base of platform. The 19 prefers 2 5s, so that's just what I utilize for all of my pistol base of platforms, because 2 8 can, for green gas pistols, tends to be too heavy of weight, tends to be. So yeah, that's what we have as far as the shooting base of platform. And with all pistol base of platforms, it's all going to be harder to hit a target at 100 feet in trying to be consistent with it. But at 25 feet and 50 feet, no problems at all. You know, we can see by the grouping size of the 34 and the 19, very easy to hit an elbow that's sticking out around the corner, or maybe your knee or something at 25 feet. 50 feet, you probably need to put a couple more shots, and then at 100 feet, you're best off going with the rifle platform. So that's what we have as far as the accuracy side of things goes. So what are some things that some people need to be aware of before they purchase their Glock 34? Well, on one of the issues that occurred on mine specifically, and I can't say that this is a common thing for all the other Glock 34s, is that the rear iron sight is loose on mine specifically. My rear iron sight was also loose on my Glock 19 Gen 3 green gas, which the simplest solution was getting some super glue, putting it inside of there, and then having it stuck in place. And that will resolve the issue. I know a lot of people, myself, I don't like the fact that I would need to modify or change any things on my pistol right away. The Glocks, me being a huge fan of the Glock series, I'm willing to overlook that. You know, and again, I'm a real Glock guy shooter, so I prefer having the officially licensed Glock series that I can utilize in order to maintain one-to-one scale replica, as well as being able to maintain any type of muscle memory that I have gained by shooting all of my real Glocks. So I really appreciate that. Other than the fact that with the CO2 magazines, they are shooting 360 feet per second through this model specifically, as well as the fact that you can only get 2 magazine fills of BBs before you start to lose enough gas in order to continue to be fully operable. That's another thing that people should be aware of when it comes to utilizing the CO2 magazines on the 19X or Glock 45, or even the 17 Gen 4 of the green gas variants that have the same type of recoil spring guide rods as the 34 that I have here, those can take CO2, and I do utilize those green gas pistols utilizing CO2 magazines, and there is going to be a slight jump in velocity, still safe around that 330, 350 feet per second, but I can get around 4 to, in some cases, 4.5 total BB fills of a magazine before I run out of CO2 on those platforms specifically. However, do be aware that the Glock 17 Gen 4 is a shorter slide than this, and the 19X and the 45 are going to be even shorter barrels as well, allowing for not nearly as much CO2 to be utilized for moving that slide as well as propelling that BB out of the barrel. So having a longer base of slide that is going to have more friction on the frame is just going to allow it to require more CO2 to get it to shoot back and make everything operable. So that is just one thing that people need to be aware of. It's not so much a flaw, it's just something that happens with the platform. So I personally am utilizing the MC Kydex light bearing Elite Series holster that I have mounted onto a drop leg holster. And this is one that is going to be a quick release option, so I can get different types of holsters, non-light bearing, different pistol platforms, and be able to quick mount it using the G-Code RTI drop leg mount system. And it's just rock it down, lock it, and then that's not going anywhere. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that with my Glock 19 Gen 3, utilizing the TLR1 Streamlight flashlight, it will go inside of that drop leg and lock in and be retained. Because it's Kydex, it's an easy pull out in order to get away from the holster and then draw to engage or do whatever you need to do. On the Glock 34 side of things, well, I should say that the 17 Gen 4 and 17 Gen 3, even the 45 and the 19X, utilize a similar size of slide as well for width and length, and are very close as far as compatible utilizing this holster system right here. The 34, and I don't have a real one in order to get a micrometer measurement for, but this does seem to be a slightly thinner of width of slide in order to be compatible with this holster that I have specifically. So luckily, with the Elite Series light bearing holster, the bottom part of the holster is going to be open, which means that the length of the pistol is not an issue, even with that orange tip there. So it can slide in and has plenty of room for that slide to sit there, and other than the orange tip, protruding just a little bit, it does fit inside of there really, really easily. One of the issues that I have right now is with that width, it doesn't lock in nearly as cleanly as the 19, 17, or 45 or 19X for that matter. One of the solutions with the MC Kydex of holster specifically is that there is a retention pin down here that I can tighten if I really need to. Already I have tightened it down pretty well, so I could go even tighter, and it does still lock in. It is a little loose to where it will slide out. But again, that's just part of tightening it down. In fact, I'll go tighten it right now. And just like that, we've tightened it down to the point where it will retain inside of there. It does have a little bit of a click to it, but it does retain inside of there. It will not slide out now. So utilizing the MC Kydex of holsters, you do have control over how much pressure is applied to your pistol platforms, which is why I personally utilize the MC Kydex brand of holsters for my personal use for airsoft and real firearms. With other type of holster systems, they don't have nearly as much freedom when it comes to making those smaller adjustments. So that's why I suggest the MC Kydex of stuff right now. Not sponsored, just really like the MC Kydex of holsters, and I suggest everyone pick one up for yourselves as well. So that's what I have as far as information about the Glock 34. I personally don't do a whole lot of upgrades to my Glocks or really my rifles as a whole. I try to keep them as stock as possible. One thing that I will do is probably try to get a different streamlight of flashlight, a slightly extended one, since it will better fit the length platform with the Glock 34 model here specifically. The TLR1, this one is the S model, TLR1S, designates it being the short model, which works on the 17 and actually meets the end of the barrel of 17 very, very cleanly, versus utilizing it on the Glock 19 here, which obviously is a shorter barrel of system, or a shorter slide of system. So that streamlight flashlight does not meet that barrel very well. The barrel kind of resides inwards a little bit. But anyway, that's what we have going on right now as far as information on the Glock 34. If you guys have any further questions, put them down in the comment section below. I'll do my very best to answer them. And with that, we're done here. So you guys take care, stay safe, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the weather while you guys got it.